Okay, Year 7, today we're going to learn 5 different types of graphs, and we're going to use the data that we've collected about the favourite chocolate bars that you selected out of Crunchie, Turkish Delight, Cherry Ripe and Picnic. So the results are there in the table, and we're going to be using those results for each one of our graphs. The 5 graphs that we're going to do are a column graph, a bar graph, a line graph, a pictogram and a dot plot. So it's important that you remember to include all the details of each graph, and every single one of them needs a title. So for our column graph here, first thing I'm going to do is put a title in, which I'm going to call Year 7D's Favorite Chocolates. Okay, now to draw a column graph, you have to first of all set up the axes. So we get our ruler, and across the bottom we're going to draw a line. Like so. Then we need one vertically as well. Like that. Okay, so put little arrows on the end to say that that could keep going. Okay, for the column graph, we're going to, on the bottom axes, we are going to put the type of chocolate. Okay, so chocolates that we had were Crunchie and Turkish Delight, etc. But when we write them down, we need to leave one gap there at the beginning, and then we're going to have 2 bars for 2 spaces there for the first column. So in the middle of that, we're going to write the word Crunchie. Then we need another 1 space gap, and the next 2 spaces will be for the Turkish Delight. Leave another space gap, and then the next 2 spaces will be for the Cherry Ripe. Leave 1 more space gap, and the last 2 boxes there together will be for the Picnic. Okay, now vertically, this axis is going to be the number of students that chose the chocolates. Okay, so because we only had 7 people was the biggest number we had for people that chose picnics, if we just do 1 space each, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, that would only take us to here, which makes our graph pretty tiny. So to stretch our graph out, I'm going to use every second space like this. Okay, so I've done all the setting up, and what you see there, that could possibly get you 3 marks on the test. You get a mark for your title, you'd get a mark for setting up your horizontal axes with the chocolates and the label there on the side, and also another mark for the vertical axes with the label and the numbers. Okay, so you get quite a few marks just for getting to this point, and now we need to draw it. To draw the column graph, Crunchie was chosen by 5 people. So we want to draw a nice tall column like this that goes over the Crunchie. And if you do it with your ruler, that's even better, to get a nice column like that that goes up to the number 5. Then we have our little gap, and the Turkish Delight goes up to 6. So we draw another column like that. Okay, then the Cherry Ripe had 4 people. And lastly, the Picnic had 7. Okay, so make sure all those columns are nice and neat and ruled. They all have the same width. They're going up to the right numbers for the height, and you have those lovely spaces in between them. So that is a column graph. Next, we're going to the bar graph. Now, the only difference between the column graph and the bar graph is that we're going to switch the axes around. We're going to put the type of chocolate on the vertical axis, and we're going to have the number of students on the horizontal axis. So let's get our ruler out. Let's draw in our lines. Like that. Okay, so for the type of chocolate, we are going to have to leave a one space gap, and then the next two spaces will be for crunchy. Leave a one space gap, and the next two spaces will be for Turkish Delight. Leave a one space gap, and the next one will be for Cherry Ripe. Leave a one space gap, and then two more spaces for the Picnic. Okay, we're going to stretch out the horizontal axes again, so every second space we're going up by ones. Okay, now let's draw in our bars. So starting with the crunchy had 5 people. So bars coming out horizontally. So remember they're two spaces wide. And we get a nice bar like that. Turkish Delight was 6. So again, it's better if you rule these lines. It's just very hard to use a ruler on here. So nice and neatly. Cherry Ripe is 4. And finally, the Picnic is 7. And that's it. Okay, one more thing to do before I move on. I have forgotten something very important. Well, I haven't forgotten, I just haven't done it yet. I need a title. Every single graph. So this is Year 7D Favorite Chocolate. Okay, so we do a check, make sure we have all our labels, which we do. And now we're ready to move on to the next one. A line graph. A line graph is set up like the column graph that we started, or very similar. There is a small change. We're going to have the type of chocolate back down on the horizontal axis, and we're going to have the number of students back on the vertical. Let's just draw our lines in. Okay, but we don't need to do the weird one space, two space thing that we were doing for the column graph. We're just going to use every second space, and we're going to put the names of our chocolates down here. So we're going to have Crunchy, Turkish Delight, and this is on the little lines. We have Cherry Ripe and Picnic. On the vertical axes, we're going to do every second space. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And to draw a line graph, we're going to put a dot for each one of our results to start with, and then we're going to join it with a line. So Crunchy, come up to the 6 and put a dot. Turkish Delight, oops, sorry, start again. Crunchy was only 5. Crunchy, come up to the 5 and put a dot. Turkish Delight was the 6. Cherry Ripe is the 4. And Picnic is the 7. And then use your ruler to connect the dots. Okay, that one's done. No, it's not. I nearly forgot the title again. Year 7D favorite chocolate. All right, I'm going to do it first this time. Pictogram. Year 7D favorite chocolate. It's very easy to forget a title. It's important that we don't, because otherwise we lose marks in the test for silly things. Okay, so for a pictogram, we just need to draw a nice long horizontal line. Give yourself a fair bit of space above it. And we need to measure some nice even spaces for each of our types of chocolate. So probably 2 or 3 centimeters would be good. It's nice to keep them nice and even. It looks way better. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and these are going to be crunchy, then Turkish Delight, Cherry Ripe, and Picnic. Okay, then we need to, because it's a pictogram, we need to decide on a picture that we are going to use. So this type of graph needs what we call a key. Now, my advice is to keep a nice simple diagram because you are going to have to draw quite a few of them. So I'm just going to draw a nice little rectangle there because that looks like a bit like a block of chocolate. And that is going to be equal to 1 person. Okay, sometimes you might want to do what a block equals 2 people if you have a lot of people that are in your data, so you can do that. But we only have 7 as our biggest number, so I think we can just do 1 for 1. So then we need to put 7 rectangles, sorry, not 7, crunchy was 5. We want to put 5 rectangles above the crunchy. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now when you draw them, you're trying to keep all your rectangles the same size and you're trying to keep them nice and evenly spaced as you go up. Okay, and it's centered over the crunchy. Now I'm going to go to the Turkish Delight and try to do the same thing, keeping them the same size and spacing as the crunchy ones. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you can see that hopefully pretty close, but they all line up. Cherry Ripes, I need 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and crunchy needs 7. There we go. That is our pictograph, or our pictogram. Okay, one more graph, which is the dot plot. It's very similar. Don't forget we need a title, so I'm going to put it on there first. Year 7D favorite chocolate. Now it's very similar to the pictogram in that we're going to start with a line down the bottom, but we use dots. We always use dots above them, and we don't need to have a key. So I'm going to have my 4 spaces 2 or 3 centimeters apart, keep them even. Measure them with your ruler is best. So we're going to have crunchy, we're going to have Turkish Delight, we're going to have cherry ripe and picnic. Okay, and it's always just one dot equals one person, so that's why we don't need a key. And my crunchy needs 5 dots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just like the pictogram, try and keep the dots evenly spaced. Turkish Delight needs 6. Cherry Ripe needs 4. And our picnic needs 7. Okay, that's it. So those are the 5 types of graphs. You can now complete another 5 graphs, the same 5 graphs in your workbook on pages 2 to 4.